Looks like Instagram is set up as well. Give us a hi if you're joining from Instagram. Give us a hi if you're joining from YouTube on this fine Sunday evening for another track help session. What's up, Jihad? What's up, George? What's up, Harry Parker? You're all joining us from Instagram, right? Go ahead and share my screen because we've got a lot to go through today, and I'm happy that we've got this. Before we actually go ahead with that, I've just seen the chat on Meets, and it's from Kitty Man. It's actually Alex. This is Alex. We don't have a mic. First time here from the UK. Welcome, Alex. It's nice to have you on, and hope you can get a mic so we can chat. Hopefully, if you got any questions, be sure to just sort that out, and would love to have you on. So you can see over here, Nathaniel actually submitted from last week. It seems that he didn't have enough time for it to process, so we said we're going to cover it in this week's session, and it's going to be a combination of some wet weather driving and also dry weather. We're then going to go on to Jacob, who's done a lot of racing these days. Just yesterday during the private track help session, we reviewed his class footage, but today we're going to be going over to his electric kart track. And then we're going to round it off with Jacob. He wants some tips on how he can shave a few tenths of a second off. And if we have time, we're also going to go over to Harry Power. Let's get right into Nathaniel then. And Nathaniel, how's the weather been in Milton Keynes?
Yeah, in the first few sessions it was perfect. It was only in the last A final that's when it just started pouring down. Yeah, it's quite unfortunate.
These days, this is how it's gonna be, right? December, January time, tipping down with rain, but then it'll suddenly go dry, which we're gonna get onto. Now, I remember that we did a quick debrief before this wet session. Is that correct? And we gave you some tips.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So, what were the things that we discussed that session?
I think it was the corner before the straight that I should kind of take the wet line and just go around the apex to be safer. I think that's what.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Tips were.
It's interesting how you guys do a slightly different layout as we just
it
observed.
was link back and cliff drop, I think.
Gotcha. I've never driven that layout, but this is actually the corner that you were talking about. Obviously, on the standard layout, you'd be carrying a lot more speed as you come downhill over here. And it's interesting to observe the type of line you were taking. If we skip ahead to another lap, just before we go up this main straight, you can see that majority of the grip, in this case, was towards the outsides of the corner. So you'll see using a bit of that outside curb. How was the braking in the wet? Was it quite sensitive? Or
it was normal? I'm not sure. It's just normal wet. I didn't really notice anything out of the ordinary. Yeah.
Well, in these karts as well, they're the junior ones, the Biz junior karts. They actually have a lot more weight, and that helps you in the wet. Yeah, when you have more weight, it can be a handful in terms of handling, but generally, if you can go for your sharp inputs, try to do that on the grippy parts of the track.
Yeah, then I just have a question.
Go for it.
Because last time you said, and I watched your video as well, said to turn in before you actually turn so you can get grip in the corner. I tried to do that on a few laps, but it got grip straight away, so I didn't really start doing that. I'm not sure about
absolutely. It's interesting you say that because the footage I was talking over was during Tamworth, and Tamworth have slightly different karts. It's the Birrell chassis, which is lightweight, and their track layout as well requires a very, very early turn-in. And then eventually the tires will bite. Now, tracks like Milton Keynes, and especially my experience from Sandown in Surrey, whoa, those tracks, it's the turn-in is absolutely fine. And actually, you can stay on pretty much a dry line, if it were. Only a few adjustments like less pressure with your braking. Maybe some corners you do similar to what you're doing over here. You use the full outside part of the track. But that's just the characteristics of the track. How the layout is, how the water doesn't sit in certain corners, it sort of rolls off the track. It's all about design like that. So it's good to drive on different tracks, number one, and different tracks will have different techniques.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna start Club 100 this year, so
Superb.
that's probably gonna be few
And
tracks. Yeah.
how's that going to be in terms of format? Is it starting soon, and is it everyone your age?
Yeah, I think it's 13 to 17-year-olds, and it's starting in March 15th, and there's 8 days.
Super. So this is going to be basically a step up in terms of karts, the speed, of course, and also the competitiveness. Club 100, a lot more serious drivers, lots of people who've done a similar path to you, who've done obviously the Daytona sprint races, and then they look to do more powerful karts, which is what they're offering in Club 100. What's the prize for you guys?
For the juniors, it's about like 285 for one day.
No, what do you win for the championship? Is there like some test day they give you? Yeah,
For Club 100.
yeah.
I think it's just trophies. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure about that.
I know with the one that Harry Power was doing, I think they were giving some test days for certain pro kart teams, but
Yeah,
it'd be worth checking with
maybe.
Harry once he comes in.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Just going back to then your questions and your footage on the dry whilst you watch in the back, what specifically did you need help with? Which corners? Anything you wanted to discuss?
It was just kind of overall. I was just kind of trying to wonder if my blinds were kind of correct. That's it. That was like the whole purpose.
If you just confirm, was it raining beforehand or was it sort of?
I believe it was
with rain?
fully dry. It was just like a little bit slippy because of like this corner right there.
Yeah.
The cliff drop. That was because of the ice. Yeah, this one right here. It was just like a bit slidey because of the ice. I think that's it.
Well, this kind of layout, especially when you're battling against someone else, yeah, it's important to either work together or try to clear whoever you were in front. And I think you did a really good job because it only took you a couple of laps, as we're going to see, to sense, number one, what the difference is in pace between you and the car in front, and what kind of parts of the track you're faster and things. For example, this is a typical corner where driver in front's got all the pressure on him. He's leading. It's a high speed entry into a very, very tight corner. He just overshoots it slightly. You're just taking your time observing how the driver in front is doing. And because he goes a bit deep into the turn, hooks the outside curb and you're right on his bumper. So you know you can get him in a couple of corners. It's a great overtake, I'd say, that you make. And it's pretty much a switchback. So you set it up all the way from this hairpin turn, wide entry, moderately early on the brakes, early acceleration. As the driver on the outside goes wide, you anticipate to cut back. Now you've got to keep your kart there. It's a drag race down to the right-hander. You've technically got the inside line now. On the brakes, but a very, very tight angle for this corner, which means you're going to slightly understeer into him. Job done. Did you speak to him after that move? Did he say anything after you?
No, he was just quite upset because he got a kart 57 and I had that kart in the previous race and it's like horrible. So
I was gonna say maybe it's just his luck that he had. This move over here, you have the inside line, technically your head in the braking point, and yeah, if you want to in the future potentially have an easier way to avoid understeering, what you do, you're giving him nice respect, which is always important. But when you feel that you're compromised, so your line is too tight, feel free to go a bit more to the middle. So what happens over here? You guys are very, very close. You're keeping your kart where you are. You're trying to take the inside line. Now you've got the inside line. You can see your kart's coming in front. As the driver on the outside prepares for a switchback, that's what he's doing. You use that opportunity as he draws away to the left. You also come over a bit to the left. So you see how the gap is in the middle, slightly opening up. What we call this, you're almost leaning towards him, or using his line as a reference. As he pulls away to the left, you pull away to the left. Just makes the corner a bit easier for you to take. And then it's very, very important. When we have a tight line like this, we always got to go for early braking. Earlier we can brake, the easier it'll be to then get a better exit, which is very, very important. Let's see what happens over here. Hold your position, and then you let him worry about whoever's behind. I guess he had the slower car, you said. So
Yeah.
What happened with him? Where did he finish?
I think he finished second. Yeah, he finished second.
What was the gap between you and him?
I think it was somewhere around 4 to 6 seconds. I'm not quite sure. I think it was somewhere around 4. I'm not really sure about that.
Did you feel you had better straight line speed, or was it in the cornering you were just quicker than him?
I felt like in the corners I was definitely better, and in the straight line the kart was quite good as well. But I think more in the corners.
Yep. Interesting. Let me just bring up my pen as I go ahead and share my entire screen as well. And it's just one line I want to tell you about. Now, this line I'm going to explain for the last hairpin, which we just passed, not the last corner, but the corner before that. It made the biggest difference for me in lap time. And I was actually struggling with this corner in terms of exit speed. So what corner is that? Well, it's after the main straight, or the back straight, coming through this fast left-hander. So think about it. From the bottom of the hill all the way to the top, flat out. In these karts, it's flat through the left, right?
Yes, completely flat.
Hugging the left-hand side. And what happens is now we're approaching a very sharp corner. So what happens is you have to slow down a lot. And also you have to try to get the best possible exit. What happens if you go too quick on the gas over here, or too much entry speed, you can end up going wide, similar to what we saw on lap 1 with the driver you're battling. So I think this is a nice effort that you did over here. And this should be the line that you want to try to hit each time. Is there a specific reference for turning you're using, and even for braking for this corner?
For me, like the braking point is the line, or a little bit before.
Yep. This solid line?
That line right there.
Awesome. So you brake just before that. What about the turning?
The turning, I don't really have a reference. It just kind of, after the braking, it's just a little bit of rotation with it, and it just kind of flows.
What helped me, obviously I was doing the more powerful ones, the D-Maxes, but also in the Saudis it translated over, is at that line. Interestingly, one of the drivers was telling me, if you turn it right at this point, so as your front tires go over that line, it's the perfect spot. Now you might think, we're at the line now. Actually, let's go back one frame. Let me pause it on the line. You might think, as soon as your front tires are on the line, this is too early. Like, how am I going to manage? How am I going to make the corner? Am I not going to hit the inside barrier? Well, actually, if you get your braking done at the right time, you get that sharp turning done, and you just trust the kart, you'll get a good amount of rotation. And similar to what you've done over here, you're going right up to the limit, using the inside curb, and then coming back out wide to the exit. If you can work on doing that consistently, to hitting your turning point at the line, getting as close to the inside curb as possible, and then run out wide, that should be helping you get a better time. Somebody on sorry, I think that's got some background noise there, Nathan. Nathaniel?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Just go mute. So last hairpin, as we discussed, or second to last hairpin at Daytona, is something you can keep on working on to get some consistent timings. Compared to other drivers, that's the biggest gain that you can definitely expect. Was there anything else, Nathaniel, before we move on to the next driver?
No, that was just it. I was just gonna ask if, like, you personally have any experience with Club 100 karts, and in the rain, are they like really slidey or kind of better in grip? I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Club 100 karts are basically the Rotax engine and rental kart chassis. It's a barrel chassis. I've actually driven those. And in terms of the handling in the rain, you're going to have to be very wary of the throttle input. So if you're too quick on the accelerator, then you get a lot of wheel spin, and you'll feel that the car's just going to be out of your control. So the best thing to do is, once you get your braking done, you turn it down and you feel that you can start applying some gas, apply a fixed amount. And that should be about 25%, 30%. And if you can hold it at that portion, so if you can modulate the throttle, hold it at 25%, 30%, and just come out to the corner slowly. And then as the kart is straightened up and your steering wheel is straightened up, then you can put your foot down all the way. Yep. So I would say avoid too much coasting. So you don't want to be off the gas too much. But rather than giving it 50% of gas or 75% of gas, give it 25. Just a tiny bit, just to keep it going. Give it some revs. And once your kart is straightened out, you should have enough confidence to put your foot down all the way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
No worries at all, Nathaniel. Look forward to seeing some more footage of you, hopefully from Club 100 in the future sessions.
Thank you.
Let's just take a couple of questions which have come through from Instagram and on YouTube. It doesn't look like we've got all too many questions, but we've just got a hi from Jihad. We've got a hi from Maxi. We got a hi from Ayman as well. What's up, guys? Just to fill you in, a lot of people ask, how can I join this discussion? Well, you can join the KTips Academy and you can get access to all of this. So we have weekly coaching sessions or track help sessions. You can submit footage, questions, and even track maps that we're going to be going through. You also have access to a karting assistant who will answer your questions instantly, and a fitness coach who will give you some personalized workout and diet plans based on the equipment that you've got and also your needs. It's also a great opportunity to be part of a global karting community. We've got people from all over the world over here driving at different tracks with different experience levels. So come out here, ask some questions, be part of an awesome group. You can try it free for 7 days. Now, just going back to our track help sessions, the Saturday one is a private session. We don't broadcast that live, but the Sunday one, which you're tuning into now, this is a quick taste of what you can expect. This is obviously live streamed at 6 p.m. GMT. Let's go ahead to Jacob. Jacob, you there?
Yes.
Awesome. Jacob, you've got 2 clips of the Prague electric track. Which one shall we go over?
I got 3 clips.
3 clips, actually, you're right. Which one should we go over?
The first one of the 3 is I got my fastest time, all-time personal best.
Okay.
But
super.
But like I'm sorry, I positioned the camera badly and the steering wheel isn't visible.
Okay.
So, but I want to tell you that there is like a boost button.
Yeah.
And there is maybe play it. I will tell you what I.
Well, this is it. This is the all-time.
I don't know which one of the times it is it, but.
When was this actually recorded?
What? It was recorded 31st January.
Okay, so quite recently.
Yes,
at this kind of
I was told that the optimal place for the boost is up this uphill.
Up the bridge. Interesting.
But
yeah.
But like mostly the boost button that lights when you can use the boost. For some reason, for me almost always didn't light up before the up section. So I used it on the straight.
Okay. Just a few things before we go further. This is it looks like a big warehouse, right? You've got a tall ceiling.
I think it's the track has I think like 750 meters.
It looks amazing, honestly. I think though the weather will have a big impact on it, especially when it's like a cold morning or something, and you have that direct sunlight which comes through those windows.
But like it's still cold.
Yeah, of course. Nowadays you can't. This time of year you can't expect a hot temperature. But it's interesting. When I was in UK, a lot of the guys said our best lap times come in December time, where it's quite cold. When do the best lap times happen at this track? What's the nature of this?
I don't know.
What is the best lap time?
I don't know which lap it is, but it's uh 53.8. But really, I would want if you would try to spot some mistakes, because like if you get a time under
Yeah.
52.5, you can get like the fastest card, and
Uh-huh.
and then the fastest guys, I think they do like 47.5 or something like that.
47s. Wow. Okay. Is that like a different speed mode they give you in that
Yes,
car?
like less strict speed limiter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I thought this was limited because if they're getting 47, you're getting 53. Definitely, they have a different mode. Just going through some of the corners now because we've had a couple of laps over here. Very very interesting combination. Uphill, downhill, banked corners. Specifically, which corners are you still struggling with?
I don't really know, so that's why I would want if you would try to spot like where do you think I can still gain time, because I don't actually know.
Yep. Well, I've already identified a couple of corners, which it'll be interesting to hear your feedback on. First of all, let's go to the one which is coming up at the top of the bridge. So ideally, yeah, you do want to boost up this part. That's what my preference is. Indoor tracks. Use the boost when you're going up the bridge. This kind of corner which is coming up now, and it's a tight left into an even tighter
Yeah,
right.
want to tell you, like this in combination with like I think with another corner is kind of a lottery if you can make it flat out or not.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think this attempt we're watching over here on this lap was pretty good, one of your best. You got the turn in pretty much right, fixed to the left, ending up, as we said, on the left-hand side of the track, so you can be with a wide entry to go pretty much flat to the right. Now, there's not much runoff. That's the problem. So the more acceleration you put, the more you keep your foot pinned to the floor, the more likely it is that you're going to go into that barrier. These kinds of corners, it's really reliant on turning. So you're saying you're going flat through the first part. There's no braking or lifting over
No,
here.
no, like it's that like in the best case it's flat both.
Yeah,
It's all flat, but it's kind of a lottery if you can make it or not.
gotcha. How's the surface over here at this part? Is it very slippery at the top, or
Like
is there a decent grip?
not that much. I think that the cards they have differential.
Yes. Okay. All right. Interesting. So that helps with the obviously rotation.
Yes, and because the differential they steer or they always steer pretty good. So I
Yeah.
don't really I can't really that much feel how much grip is there, because they almost always steer good.
Yeah. What we want to try to do for this kind of corner is, well, maximize our exit coming out of this right hand corner. So how can we be fast coming out the right? Sometimes it means you've got to just set up for that well in advance. So, for example, as you come up to this turn over here, I like how you're going wide. I'd continue going wide as you are. Obviously, we're not able to see your steering inputs, but I think what you've done is applied a fixed amount of steering, which is very, very important. So hold one angle of steering. Ideally, do that slightly late. What you don't want to do is go in too early and then hit the apex too early and then get thrown off to the right-hand side. Similar to what you're doing over here, pretty much full lock to the left, and then get as close to the mid or latter part of the corner as possible. So the more we can end up to this side of the track, the easier we're going to be set up for the next part. What about leaning in this corner? Are you leaning at all?
No. Like you have seat belts, so it's kind of impossible.
It's difficult. Mentally think about that, or even if it's shifting your chest or your backside in the seat, exaggerate it. So if we're steering over here to the left, it's important we're trying to put a lot of weight towards our right over here, but then immediately shift that to the opposite as you go for a sharp turn, and just like you're doing over here, and then put all of that weight to the outside once again. That'll just help you through these tight sort of corners. Let's go ahead to the banked corner, which is an interesting one, and I believe it is.
I actually want to talk about the turn one.
Turn one, okay. Let's talk about that one.
Goes like the upstairs, not this one. But
which one is that?
Yes, this is the start finish line.
Yeah, you're right.
And this turn one is also kind of a lottery. So sometimes I can make it flat out, but sometimes I just have to brake at the exit to not slam in the barrier.
That seems to be a trend at this track where there's, for example, there are lots of space on entry, so you
there are 3 necessary braking points, but in some corners you just can't always make it flat out, and sometimes you can. So
yeah, this corner, to make it flat out, take advantage of the wide entry that we've got. So yeah, on a race, you don't want to be all the way wide. Somebody can dive bomb you on the inside. But when we're going for best lap time, which is what you're trying to do, is try to use all of the track. Now, the more of the track.
I even found that like when someone was like in the up the inside, and I turned in a little bit later to like give him space. Yep. I find out that on the outside there's no grip, so it understeers really.
That's a good point. You got to find the limit, and depends on the time of day you go. So if you go when there's lots of session, maybe towards the end of the day, the grip can change. Of course, if you go early in the morning, generally wider parts of the track, you're right, they won't have much grip. This corner, as you said, it's all about finding the limit. Am I getting close to the barriers on exit? Well, if you're doing that, if you're scrubbing it, if you're touching the outside barriers, maybe you're carrying too much speed. I would actually try to prioritize the inside apex as a good gauge, a good reference. Closer we can get to this, you see the dark curve, that means people are obviously running over it. The closer you can get over here, the better we can get a exit and then get us onto this section which is coming up. This is the interesting section because it looks like a crazy couple of corners. It's a bank, double right, almost a hairpin. Talk me through the line through here, because
I played backwards.
Let me just go to a clean lap because at least we don't have any traffic. Yeah, double right into a left.
I try to set it up for the next sharp corner, because like if you do it right, it's also flat out, but sometimes you can't make it. So I try to set it up nicely for this corner so I can do it flat.
That's a very interesting approach. Is there any braking here or all flat?
No.
I guess this is speed 3 or the limited speed, right? They're giving you.
Yeah, they have speed 1. That's like when you ending the ride. Then you have children, speed 2. Then you have yes, then you have speed 3, that's what I'm driving, and then you have speed 4.
And it's very interesting because that will affect the type of line you take. Speed 3, speed 4 line. I think this is a nice approach because you're able to go flat out, number one, so you're carrying maximum speed and torque in this corner, widening up at the entry, which means you can cut back to the right-hand side. As you go to the left, then you have to go for an early turn. And you can see it's an awkward corner because you're going downhill into a sharp right, a sharp left. Obviously, the camera is cut off here, but I'm sure you're already turning in now, right? A sharp turn.
Yes, like here you need to really quickly switch from almost lock to right to almost lock to left.
To left, exactly. Keep that sort of line up. Maybe something you could try is, you see, the problem is it's very, very tight on the exit over here, right? And you don't want to be too far in the middle or too far to the left because this left-hander becomes tight. I was going to say, have you tried maybe a slightly tighter line? So going ever so slightly tighter.
I think I had, but like mostly it means that you then need to brake for the next corner.
Yeah, it just becomes too tight. I'd keep this up as if you're able to go flat out, that's fine. Let's review one more corner. Which one do you think is going to make the difference for 53?
Maybe the one before the upstairs.
All right. Let me just find that.
Yeah,
Have I missed it?
I want to tell you I think there are only two corners where you need to brake. One is this, and one is the after long straight.
Is this the corner you want to cover before the upstairs part, right? This is the left.
Yes, this is.
Super. You mentioned this is one of the corners you have to brake, and I understand why. Number one, the tightness of it. Where are you braking? Over here?
I don't have any reference. I just brake intuitively, so I think pretty late. Yeah.
Yeah, just on feeling. One more time on this lap. Watch your left foot. Boom. On the brakes there. Okay, so it's a tap of the brake, as you said, because watch, you release your foot already. It's a split second. It's almost a frame on the camera. Tap of the brake, back on the gas, and you're just trying to meet the apex at the inside over here. What you could potentially try, if you haven't already, especially for a hairpin like this, is just going a bit deeper into the corner, so using more of the outside, and yeah, affording to go for a slightly later brake, slightly later turning. And what you want to try to achieve is almost a V. Remember, the ideal line is you want to boost out to the corner as well, right? So how does the boost recharge? Is it every lap, every few laps?
I think it should recharge every lap, but I don't know how the system works. But like usually it charges like on the upstairs section, not before it. So
okay,
I think that shouldn't happen, but it happens to me.
Yeah, what you might need to do if the boost is not at the appearing at the right time, you sacrifice one lap. So you let it recharge, and then you wait until the following lap, and then you come to this area, and then you can hopefully press it. That's, for example, in my experience, what happens at tracks where you press the boost maybe by mistake at the wrong time, and then the next lap it'll recharge at the same point. So you got to sacrifice that lap. It'll be worth sacrificing that and just trying to get it up this bridge. That'll always make the impact.
But the negative of the boost, I think I sometimes try to use the boost there, but it makes the upstairs section like necessary braking.
Yeah, see, that's always going to be the give or take, because wherever you use the boost, you need it to. It's going to give you more speed at the end of it, right? Whether you use it down or wherever. So play around with it. Have a couple of locations where you test it, and if you can test that in different sessions, that's going to give you the most conclusive answer. So test it up the bridge, test it maybe going down the bridge, and then test it in another location, and across 3 sessions. So then you know, was it faster or was it slower? And then you stick to that in the end, right? Whatever one was having the faster lap time, you make a note and you stick with that.
Yeah, in the other sessions, there was really annoying traffic, so I couldn't overtake them, and due to that, I didn't have that fast times on the other sessions.
And that's the problem when it comes to best lap time. It's all about finding space. And when you have a busy session, I mean, which day did you go on? A weekend, maybe?
Friday.
Friday, okay, yeah. So it's like
but it was like we had like holidays, but it was around 11:40 a.m. were the sessions. So
okay, so actually that's well, it was holiday time, you're saying. Yeah, that's probably why there was more people. No, it's just your luck really sometimes when you go. But if you're able to get a free session where there's 2 or 3 people, that will work to your advantage, because then you can build up those fast laps and can stick to one line, and eventually you'll be able to crack down. Jacob, we're gonna have to move on to the next driver. Is there anything else to cover before we move on? Keep me posted how it goes. I think the main thing you need to test is a slightly different line, perhaps in the hairpin, and more importantly, just where you use the boost button. Once you can clarify where to use the boost button, whatever's quicker for you, then just try to get lucky with the sessions. Yeah, you don't want to join those busy sessions. Try to get an empty one. I'm sure 52 will be there soon.
Thank you.
No worries at all. We're going to have to move on to the next ride. But before we do that, let's just take some comments from Instagram. We had Axel saying, "Hi, I love karting. I race in World Championships in Italy. Let me join." Awesome. Well, Axel, you can join the academy through the KTips website. As I said, we've got these weekly track help sessions. Saturday, we got the private session where it's not going to be broadcasted, but then Sunday you can join this public one where it's streamed just like it is on Instagram and on YouTube. So head over to the KTips website and you can find the link to join the academy. You can try it free as well for 7 days. Let's go ahead to Jacob. Before we go to Jacob, Harry joined. What's up, Harry? Welcome back.
Hello. Hi.
Harry, I see you just submitted some footage of Buckmore.
Yep, this morning.
That's excellent. Harry, we're going to have to go through Jacob's footage. If we have time, I'm going to jump to yours at the end, yeah? Otherwise,
no
we'll have to
worries,
save
no
it for next week.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good.
Just bear with me, and hopefully we'll get a chance. All right?
Yeah, okay, that's all good. No worries.
Jacob, this is an epic track, and it's indoor. Is it R1 indoor? Is it called?
Yep, R1 indoor karting. It's all electric over there.
So,
we can't hear your mic.
sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep. I don't know what happened.
Is it better
there, but
now?
you're good
Okay.
now. Yes.
I was just going to say, how long have you been following the KTips channel for?
Good question. So I just started karting about 11 months ago now. I think I
Okay.
started getting into it more competitively around 3 months in and scrolling around YouTube. So probably around 7-8 months.
Awesome. And when did you join the academy?
The academy would have been very recently, so like 3-4 months.
Okay, excellent. Was it just through the YouTube description maybe you saw, or was it
Yeah, I found it
on the
somewhere
website
around
directly?
YouTube. Somewhere around YouTube.
Excellent. Yeah, majority of people come from the videos itself. I'm really happy to see you driving. First of all, I can see you're taking it seriously because you got your own equipment, your gloves, your
Yep,
your
everything.
boots. And no, not only that, the driving speaks for itself because it's a great effort. In terms of this track, first time or actually second time I've seen a track who actually paint the so-called
Green line.
racing line.
Yep.
There's no braking points that they put. They just put all green.
Well,
It's all gas.
Yep, they have a drawing for the actual track map itself where they identify possible breaking points, but
yeah,
as far as the track goes, the major breaking point is all the way in the back as a big sign. Otherwise, this and one other area is a small breaking point that you have to worry about. I know a lot of people around the track say they like to lift with no braking. It's never worked for me personally, so.
Okay. We're going to get to that.
Yep.
In terms of the carts you're using, it's the Biz electric carts, and these are some of the latest ones. You've also got the boost button.
Yep.
What's your experience like with these carts? You've been doing this for a while, the electric?
Yeah, so the Biz
More
carts
than
can
gas?
Yeah, I haven't got to try gas carts yet, actually. There's one local track I need to get to on a certain day to try them out. I just haven't had the time because this happens during my work schedule, so I just have to mix it in there.
Gotcha. When was this lap time set by you?
So I did this Friday, actually, at about 11 p.m. So it's going to be mild track temps. I was the only person on the track in the best cart.
Yeah.
But it was a good lap altogether, I think.
Let's
The
just
areas.
let's just go through this with you because it's interesting how obviously the track starts. Now, let me just bring my pen up so we can see in detail. Are there any specific corners before we go through the lap that you are still trying to improve on?
So I think the biggest thing is this first hairpin. I'm very unhappy with how I almost have to artificially drive the line. I try to
basically through here.
Yes. So I try to use brakes more than steering angle, but every time on this corner, I feel like I always have to adjust my driving line a little bit on the exit. So after the apex, right there, you can see how I adjust it, then bring it back over. I'm unhappy how it constantly does that for me, but I don't think
a bit of a correction.
Yes, I don't think I'm losing too much time. That being said, I feel like I lose a lot of momentum at the apex where I shouldn't have to. It kind of takes a slow stop at that adjustment.
Yeah.
It definitely varies kart to kart because sometimes they have like a throttle hesitation. I know a lot of people complain about it. I try to make it work as I can. In this car, it wasn't too bad, but some other karts, it's definitely a lot worse getting back on the throttle.
And I think this hairpin becomes even more awkward with this bump or uphill section.
Straight to the downhill bank.
Yeah, and it's almost a huge dip. And is it a tap of the brake or a lift, perhaps?
So where I do it is on the downhill, about halfway down the downhill. I don't use a barrier marking. I get on the brakes very lightly, and then I lift off about where it starts to go uphill again and start to very gently build on the throttle from there.
Okay. Sharp turning you're going for?
Yep. So this is the one I can't really use my brakes too much. I try to use my brakes more than my steering angle, but it doesn't really work here.
Yeah, gotcha. It's interesting to hear your feedback. And how does the kart sort of respond? Because it's banked and it's uphill. So do you feel like it gets quite unsettled as you lay the power down?
It's definitely a possibility. I don't think if you're on the outside, you lose too much time in the air. But if you boost down someone's inside for an overtake, the kart actually cuts power because it catches air. So it's definitely, it can be a little bit temperamental going in there. For the most part, I'd say it's not too bad though.
Yeah, it's interesting for these kinds of corners because you've got a decent, sort of few meters on exit of the corner before the right, which is coming up. Have you at all considered maybe a slightly deeper entry so you can continue along the outside barrier, maybe go for a slightly later break and then a later turn in?
Yep, I actually used to brake later. But when I was doing that, my tail end would actually be clipping the barrier on the outside. And I'd also, at the same time, hit the barrier on the exit because I'm having too much entry. So I started opting for the earlier braking. That way I could keep it fully controlled through the corner.
Yeah. I think in that case, stick with the earlier brakes. And it's all about then feathering the accelerator and just feeding it, just so you're not going to get too much sliding. Now, what you want to avoid is, the back end coming out and then almost coming into the barriers. I think on this occasion, for example, I know it's your fastest lap, it's sort of on the limit because what we want to see is, initial turning, trying to rotate the car to the left. But as you put the power down, you're bringing it back to almost that neutral steer point, which is what we like. And we want to try to straighten that wheel out as much as possible. On exit, then it's about balancing that. How much counter steer or oversteer are we going to get? This is not too bad on exit, and running the kart out wide. I think the line there looks decent. What about the inside curb here? How much can you ride until? Is it until the black barrier? I'm assuming.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused what you're trying to say there. Are you asking how close I can get to it without losing time?
Yeah,
you can go right up to it if you have the ability to make it there.
And that's all just painted, right?
Yeah, it's just painted.
The blue and white, cool. There's a couple of indoor tracks we've seen. They have at the inside curb a lip, and it sort of curves down slightly. So obviously that's not present over here, but with that lip, you can almost hook the inside tire slightly and use it to your advantage. Here, I wouldn't take too much risk. What you can do, get as close as you can, but just avoid any touching of the barriers. These will just rebound you out. These are quite
absolutely.
Quite
I've experienced it many times.
Well, if you don't hit the barriers, you're not pushing hard enough. That's what I say. I like this though. Early turning, early brake, sharp turning, accelerate out the corner. Keep that up. Which are you?
So I actually experienced this in a race Tuesday. So I qualified first with one of the fastest races around the track around me. So going around this uphill right, actually, he would always catch me on that corner. So I've been experimenting a lot, both Tuesday and Friday, trying to kind of mimic what it looks like he's doing, which is a very early turning on that first right for the uphill. So where I'm already coming out a little bit wider to get back on the line, he's still very, very tight to the barrier. So on this lap, I'm trying to mimic that a little bit, but I think he's actually coming a little bit wider and very much tighter onto the hairpin for the uphill on the second lip.
This part over here.
Yes. So he's still very tight to the barrier while I'm still racing out to the outside for the following, right?
Gotcha.
Always catch me on that section. I'm trying to just improve a little bit right there. But it's definitely a tough one because the lips will take your cart a little bit off the ground. So if you're not doing the right turning, you lose a lot of time sliding out.
On the entry, do you try to stay, I guess, in the middle of this green line that we see? Or is it you're trying to be as wide to the left?
So I used to come all the way left and get the car very much sideways so you wouldn't really catch air. But I've been experimenting with trying to stay a little bit closer to the inside, just saving a little bit of milliseconds where I can. So if you turn in with just the right way, most of the people stay right on the inside of the green line. So I'm trying to get a little more used to doing that.
Gotcha. I think specifically on this lap, what you want to prioritize is which apex should we be closer to, and will give us the better exit. So there's the first, and then there's the second. Ideally, you want to try to straight line out of the second corner, second apex, and that's just to get the best possible acceleration coming up this portion. So what you could do is, I know you're trying to go for sharp turning to reduce the meters, get close to the first part. It might not be necessary to go all the way close as you're doing over here.
All right.
But it will be necessary to get close to the right then. So all that means is technically the corner is getting tighter and tighter, right? As we come up the right.
Yes.
So you start with a moderate turn in, so not too sharp, a moderate turn in over here. It may take you until that, so this outside right tire is just within this white line. But then we start putting a bit more and more turning in as we climb up the hill. And the second part, we want to try to be right up to the black barrier over the white line and the inside curb. So just think about maybe staging the turn in. What can help as well is going for an ever so slightly later turn in. So, we're going to veer off to the right. You want to reduce those meters. Try to maybe use this green line as a reference. So this is a nice indication because it defines almost the limit. So anything outside of the green, too wide. Maybe just holding those outside tires on the green on this early part, and then as you come up close and then you come off the green line completely, and then take the shortest path possible to the second apex. And I assume this is all flat out, right? Full acceleration.
So depending on how you take it, it's all flat or a very small lift just to get the cart turning in. At my weight, which is 90 kilos, I'm not worrying about that, but I know a bunch of the lighter guys definitely have to either lift or very small tap on the brakes into it.
Gotcha. By prioritizing the second apex, then I feel you'll be able to take the shorter path up the bridge, we can almost say, as opposed to veering off too wide too quickly. So just think about a later apex, slightly late turn in, prioritize the second apex.
I can definitely try that. It's just worried about coming over the lip and catching that air where you're going to lose time. So I'll definitely try to experiment with it.
That's it. It's that fine balance that you got to find.
Exactly.
Which are the corners?
So normally this right, I know people also really catch me here, but they actually just turn the heat on in the building, so it's a lot warmer up there. So I can actually take it a lot more comfortably. Flat out. And then other times when it's not as warm up there, you definitely have to lift, and people would usually catch me right there. Otherwise, I'll slide out too much. So I know this video wouldn't really show you what I'm talking about because I can flat out it here at least, but normally I'd take a small lift right about there to get the rotation going in. And people would always catch me. I don't know if it's a weight difference. They can just manage it at their weights. I can't manage at mine.
That's interesting. I think the more weight you have, the easier it would be, just because of more grip. But I think your line on this occasion is very, very smooth, minimal steering input, guiding it close to the first right, and then nicely to the second right over there.
Yeah,
And
the
yeah,
heat definitely helps.
you're right, because I can't imagine the lift. I mean, just looking at this, it looks very grippy. So it
Yeah.
must be a lot less grip. In
Yeah,
that
it's
case,
very noticeable.
like how early do you lift? Is it as you turn in or just before you turn in?
So depending on the cart, sometimes it's on the turn-in. Otherwise, it's a little bit after the turn-in. It depends on some of these carts. They all have their different ports and different grip levels.
Of course, of course. Sometimes if you feel it's a low grip scenario, it's best just to go for a slightly earlier turn in.
Yep.
And then feed the acceleration. Also, you could do the lift and turn, which actually helps with rotation. So that motion of as you lift your foot off the gas, it's that sharp turn, so it helps rotate the car. But then you got to control that rotation and then get back onto the accelerator soon. We're about halfway through the lap, you'd say, now?
Yeah, this is just about where it breaks up the section. Here's the most common boost area. You get 2 boosts per lap. If you time it right, it's every 20 seconds. But most
Beautiful.
people just boost on that hill, and it ends up being a very good lap time. Coming around here, I started opting for a little bit more central line because there's a little bit more grip there. You have to stay about a foot off the wall when you're coming across the apex. So that's
Gotcha.
30 centimeters. That's where the most grip is. So a lot of people actually understeer into the corner so they can end up on that line of grip. So I'm trying to opt for something more like that. I know some people also stick for a wider line going around, but they end up losing more time because the grip's right here.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's a slight tap of the brake and as you turn in.
I'd say it's more of a hold I'm going for right now to get the
on the
cart down
brakes,
just
hold.
enough, then let off and very gently get back on the
Super.
accelerator.
And it's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a high grip scenario over here as well, right?
Yes, it's very high grip. So it gets very bumpy on the exit if you're too early on the throttle. You can even see it happen here a little bit, but I think you have to find that fine line where you're bumping, but you're still going smoothly.
I think you're doing the correct technique over here. This is something I've experimented at my track where we had no grip and then they resurfaced it and we had plenty of grip. You got to go for that hold technique. So on the brakes and initiate a turn, and it's almost like a trail brake, and then you release just at the apex. I can see what you mean by the bumps there. All you got to do, firm grip on the steering wheel, ride those bumps. It is the shortest path you're taking, and you're not really going to lose too much like that. What is really good is you're accelerating out the corner. So although you're braking and turning, you've already released your foot now. So you're off the brakes, feeding the accelerator, and now it's just building up speed, building up speed, building up speed. Yep, we go over the bumps, no problem, still building up speed. And that will get you a good exit out this corner. What about the corners coming up? Sorry.
So this is the most complicated part of the track, coming into the S's here. So I'm opting for try to stay more in the center of the whole S's, but this first turn is the highest speed corner of the track. It's the heaviest braking zone. So if you want to bring it back a little bit, I'll show you where I'm braking. So as you come around that right side, right about there, you start to get on the brakes. I'm trying to stay very light enough to carry the most speed, but as you exit out of this corner, obviously the next left is going to be lower speed, but it's very easy to oversteer out of it. So I'm trying to stay more to the right there, prioritize flat out at the left of at the rest of the S's here. So from this point, it's all flat out and you're just trying to focus on the turning. Some people will opt for a lift right there just to get the cart a little more rotated and stay in the center of the final left.
Yeah.
But it's all how you decide to take it. You can prioritize the first half or the second half. So I guess you could say I'm trying to prioritize the second half flat out.
Yeah.
And at the very end here of a hot lap, you try to cut into the inside of the green line, just minimize the meters coming out.
Absolutely.
But in a race line, you stay more to the outside, so you have a little more leeway. If you're in a race, you just lose a little bit of time right there.
And it's fascinating because this is a section which is, you can say, almost decided by the entry of the first.
Yeah, the very first turn sets up the whole thing.
I like your approach. You're going for an early break, so you're sacrificing the time over here to then set yourself up to be on the correct line. You can see how you weave from the outside, flat through the left over here.
So right there is probably where I'm losing the most time, if any. On turning, I take a full lift off the throttle so I
Okay.
can get into it and very lightly build onto the throttle. But
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
to
yeah.
the employees, it sounds like most of the fast drivers sit on a more oversteer side of driving, where they
Yeah,
crank
yeah.
the cart in there. That's personally not me. I try to stay on a more understeery side. So I
Okay.
don't know if I can gain time by trying to oversteer there.
Yeah. It's that risk reward. So the thing is, if you
Yeah.
go too hot, you'll be sliding a bit too much. And then if you're under driving it, then there's a tenth or two there. Leaning can help a lot. Are you leaning at all in these corners when you
So
turn in?
I used to do a more aggressive lean, but
Yeah.
recently I've been trying to just stay at a neutral, natural lean. I can
Okay.
definitely try to reinduce it more, but I'm just more focused on trying to keep the pedals in just the right place recently, focusing on more footwork than body work.
Gotcha. In corners like this, where it's about should I lift or should I go flat, leaning can help a lot, especially as you turn in. So as you rotate the car over here, just put more load on the outside and see how the cart will react. Will it stick more? Obviously, when you go flat the first time, there will be a bit more sliding, but just manage that. And I mean, how much is that lift? I know it's slightly covered by the steering wheel. Is it a full lift?
Yes, it's a full lift off the throttle on turning, and then
Gotcha.
instantly right back, slowly building onto it so you don't slide out.
Gotcha. You can progressively get to that stage where you're trying to go flat. What I would say is try a 50% lift. So there's still some acceleration there. As you see how the cart reacts. Have you tried that at all? Maybe
that's what I
50%
used
lift?
to do. So I've been experimenting a lot with the lines lately. I used to be more in the center of that first right coming into the left, where I would
Yes.
do a 50, and then that would end up shooting me out a lot more than it should have because I had too much entry. But
Gotcha.
obviously now I'm sticking a little more to the right than the center with this turn line.
Yeah.
So I definitely could try more throttle. I just haven't gotten to that point yet. I
Yeah.
haven't had the trust in the carts because this cart is also on new tires that we're slowly transitioning over to. We're actually coming off a harder compound, which would mean less grip.
Gotcha.
So I haven't really built the full trust into the cart yet because I'm still used to the old style of grip.
Yeah. I think for this corner, it's worth just risking some things now, purely for experimenting purposes. And if it works out well, it should give you a faster timing. So add a bit more leaning, especially into this turning, and trust the cart a bit more. Firm grip on the wheel as normal. It's going to react, so it might try to slide out a little on you. But other than that, if you can get that pretty much flat, yeah, I can understand why those guys are potentially gaining a tenth or two. Just to wrap up the lap, then, any final things through this section?
I mean, not really. I guess the biggest thing would be risk first reward. If lifting there to get a very much smaller, tighter line would be worth it. But in theory, you're losing more time. So either the first right here or the left following. Because obviously right there, if I take a small lift, I can get a little more towards the center for a tighter line for the final exit. But
okay, so I'm just trying to figure out. So you're saying maybe lift here?
Yeah, I know some people do, some people don't. Take a small lift on the turn-in so you can get a tighter exit out of the final left and stay a little bit tighter, a little bit closer to the wall, save those milliseconds.
Gotcha. And currently you're just going flat?
Yes, at this point, everything's flat out.
Yeah. Try it out. Now, the thing is, when there's obviously three things that we want to try, and we'll bring it back actually. So discuss the line over here where we can try to prioritize the second apex, which is coming up. So maybe a slightly later turn in.
Yep.
What I would recommend, keep the line everything the same in that session and just change this. And then the following session, you'll be able to see whether the timing was faster with that line. Whatever worked, you stick to that. And then with the next change we want to try and go for is this corner through the left-hander, which is coming up. So this is going to be more progressive. So it's not that immediately in that session you're just going to go flat. Stage it, maybe try to go for a 50% lift. And then halfway in the session, try to go for flat out through that. Idea is by the end of the session, you've given it a few goes by trying to go flat through the left adding a bit more leaning in, sharp turning as well, have a firm grip on the wheel. Hopefully in the third session or the third time that you go out, then you can add this portion of lifting and see what impact has on the lap time. Then you have conclusive data of whether those changes made a positive difference or a negative one, and you know whether to change the line or keep it as you are. And then on top of that, I'd then go speak to the other regular drivers or the staff there and say, look, I've been trying these things out. This is the results. Do you guys advise anything more? Or, what else do you guys think I'm losing?
Yeah, I guess the main thing is everyone there seems to have a different driving style.
Yeah.
So where most of them seem to be doing oversteer, me and I know one other person and maybe two other of the younger guys are doing a more understeer style, but everyone else cranes the wheel into most of the corners.
Gotcha. So they
Every
prefer
single
that
one.
oversteery
Yeah,
style.
exactly. So
Yeah,
it's just getting used to your own style and taking everything with a grain of salt of what they say. Because obviously you can lift more with oversteer, but understeer you might want to brake more.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, these guys you're competing against, what's the weight difference?
Oh, we're all over. So we're actually
Okay.
in a tournament right now where
Yeah.
everyone's getting weighted down. So one of
Okay.
the young guys has 100 pounds on his shoulder. His times definitely went down, but he's still up there as one of the fastest. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's one of the more understeery guys. And
Interesting.
then one of the guys is also right around 200 pounds with me. I think he's more of an oversteer driver. He sits
Gotcha.
with the seat all the way forward.
Yeah.
It looks like he's cranking. He actually has funky lines going through, but he managed to put down the current best time of the year. So everyone's a little bit different around there.
So more weight isn't necessarily a negative, you'd say?
No. So the official track record
Yeah.
was set at 190 pounds. The unofficial, that guy's probably at 150. So
okay, gotcha. Well, I think it's best to compare with people in similar weights. That makes a huge difference in karting. Even 5-10 pounds here and there, it does make an impact. But once you can start comparing, especially with the guy who's quicker so far, he's not far off you, right? Similar weights, you guys are, and keep putting these small changes in place. So session at a time, try something new in your line, as we discussed today, and see what works out best.
Yeah, sounds good. It's definitely going to take some time, but I'll try it out.
It's been a pleasure, Jacob. What we're going to do is have to round off for today. Is there anything else before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate everything you said. Thank you.
Please let me know how it goes.
Of course.
Hopefully in future sessions you'll have some more footage for us so we can analyze that. Thank you to everyone who's joined the live stream on Instagram and on YouTube. Once again, this is our weekly track help session on the Academy. You can join the Academy through the KTips website. So we're doing these weekly track helps on Saturday, which will be private. That's not going to be broadcasted. And then the Sunday at 6 p.m. GMT, which you're watching now. You can check out a couple of our other resources, such as the karting assistant, will answer your questions, and also a fitness coach who'll advise a diet workout plan, and then chat with our other members from the group. It's a global community you can be part of. It's the place to be. So be sure to join on here. Until next week at 6 p.m. GMT. We'll see you live on YouTube and Instagram. Then take care, everyone. Good night.
Take it easy.
All right.